Hi, welcome to the ZP FoodSense webinar. So we like to do this once a week, and it's really just answering technical questions specifically on FoodSense. So with that said, I'll dive essentially straight into it and just say, if anyone's got a FoodSense Generation 4, and I think some of the people who are watching it will watch this webinar will have a FoodSense Generation 4, just know that there is a system called Djuli. So every time you do a measurement, all your data goes up to Djuli. Now you'll see Djuli in action in a minute, but just understand that it's really important that we kind of identify who you are, because the email associated with your login, we need to make that email associated with your login a premium account, because then all your data will get saved, and it also means that ZP can help with troubleshooting quite a lot. So that said, just make sure that you've kind of reached out to ZP and that ZP identifies that you are a FoodSense. I might have said Sensi or a FoodSense Generation 4 user, and you need a Djuli premium account. Now I'll emphasize that point as we go through the webinar today. What it means is you can send us a link, and if I click that link, then you can then allow me access to that particular piece of data, and we can help with troubleshooting. Question number 2 is about dilution. Somebody's coming over from probably a FoodSense Generation 3. I will just grab a FoodSense Generation 3, so it's just over here. We have a technology called FoodSense Generation 3, and it's definitely been surpassed now by a long way by our FoodSense Generation 4. But anyway, FoodSense Generation 3 had a few things that kind of caused people confusion. One of the things was it allowed you to kind of essentially choose any dilution you wanted, but the dilutions that were optimum for your sample type. But of course, when you've got infinite choice, it can also sometimes lead to infinite confusion. So we've kind of simplified it nowadays that you can choose in the app, and you'll probably see me do this, and I'll make an emphasis on this as well, that you can choose, am I doing a 1 in 10 dilution, a 1 in 100 dilution, a 1 in 1000 dilution, a 1 in 10,000 dilution. Now the good thing about the FoodSense Generation 4 is we can always view the raw signal, so we can make a much more informed decision on that. So when I look at these at this data, the closest to 1 in 20 is probably 1 in 10. So I would start with 1 in 10. The powder is 1 in 10. The paste is the closest to that is 1 in 10. So in fact, all of these are 1 in 10s. But when they actually do the work, we can actually look at the raw signal and see, should they be doing, one of these is a 1 in 20. So, is 1 in 100 actually going to be better? But by the looks of it, I'd start with 1 in 10, and then we can look at the raw signal and actually decide whether it's correct or not. Now watch my demo on chili in a bit, and that will help you understand what I'm meaning when I say we can see the raw signal. With that said, let me go forward a little bit more with. I will do some testing of ginger powder today, and at the end of it, I will also do some testing of chili as well. So I'm going to jump now to testing of ginger powder. So I'll probably describe what I've done. So I was trying to weigh out 0.1 grams, but you can see here I just got 0.106, but I was trying to weigh out 0.1 grams. So I took 0.1 grams, or call that 100 milligrams of ginger powder, and I diluted it in 900 microliters of buffer. So in fact, I ended up creating a sample. I'm just going to share my other camera for a second. So I ended up creating this sample here. I'm just going to give it a quick vortex. It's very important. Vortex, and I find, is by far the best way of extracting either ginger samples or chili samples or tea samples. We have all sorts of samples that we analyze these days. I'm just going to give that a quick vortex. In fact, what I'll do is I'm just going to take out that sensor for a second, put it to the side. I'm just going to take the app, which I have here on my phone. I'm just going to so the app. So at the moment the app is in caffeine mode. So it can, we've also got a caffeine sensor for this. I'm just going to try and get it into what I call ginger mode by scanning the correct QR code. Yeah, so now I'm essentially in ginger mode, if I can call it that. And I'm just going to take that out of the way. What I'm just going to do is I'm just going to check the name. The names are more important than ever, especially for our customer coming over from FoodSense Generation 3 to FoodSense Generation 4, because what it means is I can do a demo. I can look at ginger, demo. I can do ginger powder. That was I'm testing a 1 in 10 dilution. So I've got my 1 in 10 dilution set up there. I'm just going to take my pipette and do a 50 microliters onto the sensor. So let me just take a ginger sensor. I should say, yeah, it's really a ginger oil sensor, but I close that up. I've got my sample here. I'll give it another quick vortex. Now this is not good. When I say not going to be good, ginger powders are quite intense with the amount of ginger oil they've got in there. That's a very thick powdery option. So what I'm going to do, or not option, but sample. What I'll do now is I'll just take that off. I'll put that on there. And I'll just do that. I'll go continue. Right, I'll make sure that I choose the 1 in 10, which I will do, because that was a 1 in 10 dilution. I'll go start measurement, and it will run. I can see here that what it's done, it's gone very flat line. That tells me that it's actually gone out of the limits of the machine. So in fact, I already know there's too much ginger oil in here. And I can also view this on the in the data system as well. So at the moment it's saying it's uploading. It's giving me a result, but I want to just show you that this is the nice thing about the FoodSense Generation 4 is that it has a way of actually looking at the raw signal. So I'm just going to go up there and have a quick look at the raw signal. So I'm just going to do a quick refresh here. And then I can see that ginger powder 10. I have a quick look here. I can see this is flatlined here. This is a very intense signal, so I cannot interpret this signal. It's just too intense. So I'm just going to describe what I did next. So I then took that 1 in 10 sample. So this sample, which was very kind of very thick with powder, if I can call that. And I took 100 microliters of it and I diluted it with 900 microliters of buffer. I'll just click to see what I did there. So effectively, I've gone from what's called a 1 in 10 dilution to 1 in 100 dilution. I'll just show you what the sample looks like now. You can see this is not as... This is what the original sample looked like, 1 in 10. This is now the 1 in 100. I'm just going to give this a quick... I'm just going to give it a quick vortex now. So here it goes. I'll just put that down for a second because I just want to take this sensor out, and I'll put in a clean ginger sensor. So let me just put that in there. Right, and I just want to kind of make sure I name this correctly so I can find it, because this is a ginger 1 in 100. Again, by naming it, I know what cluster I put it in and I know what name I've given it. So this will really help me locate that sample in a bit. So I've got my 1 in 100 dilution sample. Yeah, I've got it here. I'll just get a clean pipette. I will put that onto the sensor. Right, I can smell the ginger on that, or the ginger oil rather. Right, now I'll go continue. Make sure I choose 1 in 100 because I have done a 1 in 100 dilution. Start measurement. Just notice the way it went flat there. That tells me already that this is too intense. So it'll give me an answer, but we're going to probably create the app so that in fact it will tell you to dilute more. You'll see when we do chili sample, sometimes it tells you to dilute more. We'll probably introduce that on the ginger as well. But the nice thing about this is, so it's given me an answer, but I did notice it went flatline. So let's have a quick look at the data again. So let me just go to the screen here. So this is the 1 in 10 dilution. I said, look, you know, it's very flatlined here. Let's just go into here now and just do a quick refresh. This is the benefit of having that Djuli premium account. And I can see the 1 in 100 dilution. Let's have a quick look at it. See the way it's flatlined? You know, it's flat. I mean, I get a better peak now, actually. I get a better peak. But look at the way that's flat. That's flat. This is telling me, and we can make the app actually call this out. But what I'm going to now, I'll go to what I'll describe now is what I did next. So I had a 1 in 10 sample, 2 intense. I did a 1 in 100 sample, 2 intense. I took 100 microliters of the 1 in 100 sample, and I added another 900 microliters of buffer. And that actually gave me effective 1 in 1000 sample. So I'll just change screens for a second. You can just see actually the little bit of powder just sitting at the bottom here now. It's very important to do a lot of vortexing. When you're doing these kind of serial dilutions, you've got to vortex like crazy when you're taking those samples. Otherwise, you're going to end up not sampling correctly. You know, if you're going to do a series of dilutions, when you're taking that sample to do the next dilution, it's got to be very homogeneous. And the vortex is a really good way of homogenizing things. So I'm vortexing just now anyway, because this is a 1 in 1000 sample. So now I've vortexed my 1 in 1000 sample. I'm just going to make sure that I, again, name it. 1 in 1000, good, done. I'm just going to take a clean sensor, which I will now do. Close that up. I'll take a clean pipette tip, which I will now do. Right, I will put on, this is a 1 in 1000 sample, which I will put on like that. Right, so that's done. I've got the sample on there. I've named it here. I'll go continue. Again, I'll make sure I really do choose the right dilution, which I have, 1 in 1000 this time. Start measurement. And I can see this time it didn't do those, it didn't go flat at the top there, so I kind of know that the data is running okay. And then it will give me an answer. So, right, so it's come back at 78,000 ppm, which is not super surprising because I am testing ginger powder directly. So 78,000 ppm. Now let's go and check the quality of that, and I can do it by coming in here and just doing a quick whoops a daisy, I say coming in here, you're not seeing it. I can come in here, I can see my series of 3 experiments or 3 tests, the 1 in 10, the 1 in 100, the 1 in 1000. Let's click the 1 in 1000. And then I can see that that peak has not been cut off because it was so intense. And I can see again that peak's not cut off, and then I can see the analysis here, and that looks really quite nice. What I mean by nice is the quality control I'm looking for is, can I see these peaks, you know, 1, 2, and 3 here, and can I see that peak there? And that's, you know, big thumbs up. That's looking good. Now, if you were ever wondering, by the way, you can basically copy that. So you can copy that URL there. If you email it to me, let's say you were wanting me to look at that data in particular, and you emailed it to me, I can click it, and then when I click it, it'll say, you know, you do not have access to this because that's your account. But in fact, if it will then email you to say, will you grant me access? And then I can look at the data. That's the power of FoodSense Generation 4. That actually we have the ability to give better technical support that we could never give on the Generation 3. So if you're ever wondering, you know, you can actually grab these URLs, email them to us. If we click them, we won't be able to just access it because it's protected, but then it will, by clicking it, we can request access, and then it will email you, and you can then click a button and you can actually grant us access. So that is, so in the end, in order to test a a ginger powder, I ended up doing what's called a 1 in 1,000 dilution. It's really important to vortex throughout that process, otherwise you're going to end up not having homogeneous samples when you're actually either testing or sampling. Question number 4 is just really, I'm just going to kind of contrast now with our chili. So let me just go back to the screen here. Right, so we've been doing ginger, but I'm just going to scan a QR code now and go from ginger to chili, which I will do. Yeah, so now I'm into chili mode. I'm thinking, if you can sort of hear me umming and ahhing slightly, I'm just thinking what I'm doing. I'm just going to prepare a sample just really quickly. So I take a sample. All right, I'm going to do 100 microliters here, which I've done. I'm just going to put a... right, I've got the buffer here. I really do hope I've actually got buffer there, but just thinking aloud slightly, that's all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, done. Right, so I'm just going to click the cap onto this. Right, and I'm just going to take that sensor out of there. I'm just going to vortex this up at the moment. You can see how how heterogeneous that is. You know, samples all over the place inside of that. So I am going to vortex it. All right, so I'll just count to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Right, so that's homogenized. It's easier to do it with things that are already in the liquid phase than it is to do things in the powder phase. Powder phases are much harder. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put that sensor in like that. I'm going to think very carefully about, I'm going to get a clean pipette so I don't cross-contaminate. In fact, what I want to do is I'm just going to make sure I name this now. So this is a chili sauce, which I've done. Right. I will take 50 microliters of that, which I will now do. All right, sample's gone on. Okay, we're in good shape there. And I will go continue. Make sure I choose the 1 in 10 because it was only a 1 in 10 dilution. Then the raw signal's coming. I can see that that peak didn't flatline. Here comes the next peaks. Right, and then that's uploading, and that's come back at 5,130, which is almost perfect. Because if you can Google this and find out what the Scoville heat unit of this actually is, so if you do Scoville heat, if you do a Google search on that, you'll find out what that is, so you can see how accurate our answer is. And then again, I'm just going to go up and have a quick look at the data. So just do a quick look up here, and I can see it there as well. Now what you can do see is, if you're ever wondering, whoops, I say that and I'm not sharing the screen again. I just went up here and I can see the ginger samples that I just did, the 10, the 100, the 1000, the chili sample I just did. So if you do have a sample and you're wondering and you want ZTB to look at it, this only works if you've got the FoodSense Generation 4 and you've got the Djuli Premier account. Anyone who has recently received a FoodSense Generation 4, you get a 1-year subscription to the Premier account anyway. You can grab that URL, just copy it, and then email it across. And then when I click that URL, I will not, or that link, I won't just be able to get into it. I will then have to request access, but you'll probably let me in, and then I can actually just check the data. And I can do things like I can even go into it and say, what kind of dilution did they use when they grabbed in that sort of sample? I can see here I did a 1 in 10 dilution. So just understand how powerful this really is. So question number 4 was just how to sort of test a chili. So I'm going to finish with that. Now, if you do have any questions regarding FoodSense Generation 4, something I've not covered today, but give me probably next week, I'll start talking about testing the caffeine actually in things like teas and coffees. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thanks very much.